Hi, my name is Dorian, and this is You, Me, and the Industry. A show where I get to talk to people from the games industry and learn more about their lives, their jobs, and their experiences. And this episode, my guest happens to come from the Middle East. Yousif Alroumi is the founder of Fikra, a company responsible for gaming conventions such as GX, the Games and Media Entertainment Expo in Kuwait. He talks about his journey into the industry, how far he has come in 10 years, some of the misconceptions people have of Kuwait, and he shares one of the best stories I've ever heard, the legendary date story. Please enjoy. Hello everyone and welcome to the show. Today I have with me the founder of Fikra, a company that is well known for hosting Game Expo and Kuwait Battle Royale. It is Yousif Alroumi. Yousif, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you, Dorian. Thank you for inviting me to the show.
Oh yeah, you know what, it has been so long and you're always dodging me, we're always busy, and now finally you agreed to this date.
Right, yeah, I was the one who was busy, huh? You were the one who was telling me to wait over a year for the interview.
Well, you're an important guest. I wanted to always keep you in the loop, and it finally happened. You see, I promised, and as a trustworthy German that I am, here we are, and now the interview is happening.
Right.
So, how are you doing these days?
I'm good. Just because of Corona, just stuck home,
Yeah. I guess, that's our life that we are now living in these days.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. And before we start with the interview and getting to know you, like we usually do, I always say I will continue until next season, I guess. It is a topic that the guests bring to the show. So, Yousif, we already talked about it briefly before. Do you have a topic for us to talk about today?
Why do Europeans not know of a technology called air conditioning?
Yeah, I don't know. I think, you know what? Like now that you mention it, I always assumed it would just be Germans, but I'm not sure if Europe in its entirety is just resistant to the idea of an air conditioner.
No, even in some of the Scandinavian countries like Sweden and stuff, it doesn't exist, air conditioning.
Really, just nowhere, not even France, Spain, nowhere in Europe.
Well, I mean, I can't speak for every country, but generally speaking, the colder countries, don't have air conditioning, which I understand because they're colder countries, especially in the winter.
Yeah.
But then in the summer, it gets humid.
Yeah. I think I can only speak from my experience. I've talked to so many people about this issue, and every year it's the same process. Every year it's like this. People start complaining about the AC and then about the heat, and then they say, oh no, this is the year. This is the year we'll finally get an AC. They think about it and then they talk about it, and then they start getting into the research and thinking about okay, what is the best model? Do I have to put it up in front of the window, or can I put it inside the room? Is there the technology already? And then they do this for so long time, then it's only the last 2 weeks of summer left, and then they think, you know what, screw it, I will do it next year. But next year for sure. And I think this is the friends, for all my family, relatives. I think every person I've ever spoken to who thought about getting an AC, it's always like this.
Well, all I can say is if you don't have an AC in Kuwait, you're basically dead.
I only remember you talking about the temperatures, and I think Mohammed from Bravewave also posting some pictures of 50 degrees or something, or in his car.
Right.
Car.
Yeah, that's normal.
That's crazy.
For us.
I think I'm pretty heat resistant. For somehow, I'm not quite sure why, but I think even me will be going to be melted by 50 with 50 degrees.
Well, the thing is with me, it's not about having cool air. The reason that what annoys me about specifically going to Germany, when I visit Gamescom, the lack of AC, it's just the lack of airflow.
Yeah,
It's not that I want cold air. It's just that there's no airflow, and that's what I want. I don't really care about the AC having cold air as much as just about recycling or recirculating the air in the room.
True,
that's it.
You know what? To be honest, the first time I went to Gamescom, I was very afraid because I thought always, because like I said, we're not very well known for our air conditioning and our cool environments inside the buildings. So I was very worried that this would be very I think we already had some guests talking about the smell, but can you imagine the smell plus the heat like in combination? It would just be a total nightmare. So
Exactly.
I was
Yeah.
quite surprised, quite mild. Like it's not like it's a good temperature inside the convention center in Gamescom.
Yeah. Gamescom, honestly, it's not so bad. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, there's like, a ton of people and, it can get, a bit hot,
Right.
but it's not as bad as, you would expect. It's not like, people are like sweating, from top to bottom or anything like that. It's pretty well
Yeah.
done, I think.
Yeah, good. Yeah, and like we said, we met at Gamescom, and yeah, I got to get to know you, and yeah, so maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself and about GX and KBR and what those acronyms stand for. I already introduced them, but maybe you can give us a little bit more insight on these events.
Sure. Okay. So my name is Yousif Alroumi. I am the founder of a company called Fikra. It's a event management company. And just so you know, Fikra is an Arabic word. It means idea.
Oh, great.
So I wanted, it was very important for me when I was creating this company that I wanted like a very, um, a name that reflects, what I'm trying to do. And at the same time, it is easy to say in English.
Right.
So I chose that. I came up with the name Fikra, so which means like idea. So it's all about being creative and having creativity. So I myself, I'm a gamer. Since the day I was born, I've always played games. Games is my number one hobby. I got to like a lot of things in my life happened because I'm not talking about work, just like just because of my gamer, like meeting friends and getting to know friends and stuff like that was because of video games. So video games is a huge part of my life. But the thing is, um, there is no official representation for video games in the Middle East by video game companies. You know, so in I celebrate my 10th year anniversary this year because I started the company in 2010.
Oh, awesome.
So in 2010, I recently came back. At the time, I came back from America. Um, I was in university there, and I had no idea what I was going to do in my life, like career-wise. Because this might come to maybe I don't think I told you this, but I was actually I wanted to be in the military,
Oh, wow. Okay.
but I wanted to be in the Air Force specifically, an Air Force pilot. But because I'm an only child, no brothers or sisters, it's against the law for me to be in the military. But I'm stubborn. I was like, no, I want to do it. But I knew no matter what happened, there was no way I was going to get into the military. But that was just me being stubborn. So once that I could not do that anymore. Like once I hit the wall, I wanted to do something, and I just didn't know what. All I knew was I wanted something to be fun, creative, and to show Kuwait to the world in a positive light. So after thinking for a little bit, I was like, hey, there's no video game companies. And video games have a stigma of being for like kids, it's not good for you,
Yeah, right.
whatever. And I was like, hey, maybe I can do like events, so it's like a two-way street. I'll do like a video game event, and the people in Kuwait will understand what video games are, and then people outside of Kuwait, like companies and stuff, might have an interest and come and invest in the not just in Kuwait but the Middle East region as a whole.
Yeah, right.
you know so but I hit a big roadblock, which
Okay.
is who can I even contact, because like I said, there's no official companies in the region. So I wanted to do something neutral, which was a video game orchestra back in 2010.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's very easy.
This is back at a time when, a video game concert was not like a common thing in,
Yeah,
in,
yeah.
in any country. So obviously, I had a hard time doing that because Um, I had no experience. I had no money. I had no connections, you know? So, and at the time, I didn't start the company. I went to another event management company to help me to prepare this, and I saw how disorganized they were and how bad they were. And I said to myself, because like I said, I wanted to be in the military, and one of the things, military people like is organization.
Mm-hmm.
And and by the way, I grew up in a military school when I was a kid.
Oh, okay.
So like, that military system, that military lifestyle was in me since a young age. And I was like telling myself, this organizing company is like this bad, like seriously, and they get like, like all these contracts and all this work. I was like, I bet I can do, something better than they can.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how the Fikra company came about, that I just saw, how people were doing events, and I said, well, I think I can do
Okay,
it
yeah.
better. So I chose Fikra as the 'cause, when you make a company, you have to like choose a license and stuff from
Mm-hmm.
the ministry, the government. I chose event management because event management gave me a broad range of activities to do via the company.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So, I mean, I personally don't care about events. It's just a means to an end.
Mm-hmm.
So if there was another way for me to attract video game companies, I would have done that. But I thought to myself, the easiest and best and fastest way to attract those companies would be by doing events. So I made the company become an event management company. So I started the company with my father, and like I said, I had no idea how to even organize an orchestra, let alone an event,
Yeah, yeah, right.
So I said, okay, let me take a few steps back and let me go, smaller scale. Let me focus on something we have in Kuwait that we're really good at, and that's fighting games.
Okay.
In Kuwait, we have a long history of fighting game players, like dating back to the 90s,
Mm-hmm.
like the golden age of the fighting games.
Yeah.
And we always had tournaments in Kuwait for fighting games, but nothing major, like small tournaments. Like maybe the biggest tournament would be like 40, 30 people, something like that.
Okay, way small. Yeah.
Like very, very small.
Mm-hmm.
And the majority of the tournaments were actually like 10 people.
Wow.
Like there was only like, a handful that would be like 30, 40, 50, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, you know what? I'll start doing esports. I'll start doing fighting game tournaments, because I knew if I could reach out to some of the famous pro players in the world
Mm-hmm.
and have them come to Kuwait, and then have our Kuwaiti players beat these legendary people, it's a way of getting our
Yeah,
name
like
out.
putting you on the map of the world. Like, but yeah, right. But
Yeah,
yeah,
like,
right.
oh, like what? Like this guy got beat by people in Kuwait,
Yeah, yeah,
that kind
right,
of
right.
stuff. So I focused on that in the beginning, and I did a bunch of small tournaments, and I actually became a consultant for an arcade company here in Kuwait for about 9 months, 10 months,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was doing it under their name, not
Okay.
under the Fikra name,
Mm-hmm.
or like these small tournaments. And I started breaking sales records in that company.
Oh wow.
They had like, the most attendance, the most money coming into the arcade, everything after, I started working there.
Mm-hmm.
But the management hated my guts
Oh, okay.
because for 3 years, they could not get anyone to come to the arcade, and like their sales were zero.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, I come, and like with one event, I break all the records. So like they viewed me
Yeah,
as a
yeah,
threat.
right.
The thing is, I didn't care. Like I wasn't looking to take over their jobs. I was just a consultant. I wasn't even an official employee of the company.
Yeah.
So little by little, they started putting obstacles for me, and it got to the point where they wanted to offer me like a permanent job there.
Mm-hmm.
But like I was like, no, there's no way I can work in a in an environment like that where they actively try to sabotage
Right.
events
Yeah.
that I do for them. It's not even for me, it's for them.
Yeah.
So we were working on an event. It's going to be the biggest event up till now. It was the Daigo Kumite. Daigo Imahara, who's like the most legendary, fighting game player in
Yeah.
the world.
Well known. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was going to come to Kuwait and he was going to do like a kumite. So he will be like, fighting like 50, 60 people, back to back. And the thing is, all the communication was being done by me. Like that company was not involved in the communication aspect. So for all Daigo knew, he was coming to Kuwait for an event hosted by me. So 1 week before the event started, the company asked me, they said, we want a final answer from you. Are you going to accept our offer for you or will you decline? And I said, you know what? And just so people know, it was Thursday. Thursday is like our Friday in the West.
Okay.
So our weekends are Friday and Saturday, and our weekdays are Sunday to Thursday.
Oh, interesting.
So Thursday is the last day of the week. So I was like, you know what? They called me on Thursday. The event is on Thursday next week. I was like, it's going to be the weekend. If I tell them, I'm not going to continue, I don't think they're going to cancel the event. They're going to let me do the event. And then like after that, I'll just like, separate.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, I get an email in the morning at 8 a.m. On Sunday morning, which is, like I said, the first day of the week in the Middle East. And they said, we don't want you. We don't want the event. We don't want nothing. Goodbye.
Oh, wow. Okay. It was 1 week left, right? Yeah.
So I'm telling you now the creation of Fikra, okay?
Yeah.
So basically, the event has already been marketed for like 2 months. We've already told people, like Daigo got his tickets, like everything is done.
Yeah.
Okay? And worse is that my name was attached to it.
Yeah, right.
So if I were to cancel this or whatever, they will say, oh, it was Yousif's idea. He's a bad organizer or whatever. Don't trust this guy.
Yeah.
They're not going to say it was that other company. It's going to be because I was like the face of the event.
Yeah.
So Daigo was supposed to travel from Japan to Kuwait on Tuesday. And this is on Sunday. And I remember talking to my dad about this, and my dad asked me just one question. He's like, can you do this or not? I was like, Dad, they are the ones who need me. I don't need them. But the thing is, I don't have any money right now because, this was a surprise. My dad said, go ahead and do the event, and I'll cover you. I won't let those sons of bitches, screw over my son.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you notice, the Twitter account and Instagram account and Facebook, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube accounts for Fikra were all created like literally 2 days before the Daigo event.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it was unplanned.
Coming in hot, right?
Yeah. So and I'm a community guy. Like I'm a very social person. I always hang out with with gamers and go to arcades and stuff. So like when I created the Twitter account, there was like no followers. No one even knew it existed, right?
Yeah.
So I started making phone calls to all the FGC players in Kuwait, telling them, okay, guys, that company that was supposed to do the Daigo event is not going to do it anymore. It's going to be me.
Yeah.
But it's going to be at the time, it wasn't registered. The company wasn't officially registered, but I had a prototype logo. So I created everything Fikra and used the temporary logo, which is now permanent. But at the time, I planned on changing it because I really hate my own logo, by the way. But like I said, I had no time to prepare. So I just used whatever I had on me. And what's crazy is I literally organized the whole event and marketed the whole event in less than 48 hours. and don't forget, the Daigo event was actually in 2011.
Okay, yeah.
And that event happened to be the first time in the Middle East that a major video game event happens being live streamed over the internet. There wasn't even Twitch. We were doing it on Ustream. That's how old the event
Yeah,
is.
Ustream, I
Like
remember.
Twitch didn't even exist at the
Yeah,
time. Okay, it was called Justin TV,
Justin TV, right?
and it was the first video game event in the Middle East that had live commentary, live Arabic commentary. So there was all these firsts, and this event was like literally done in 2 days, like planning and
Yeah, crazy.
organization. Next thing you know, we had actually for like because a change of venue, we had like everything
Hmm.
changed. We still had about 200 and something people show up,
Wow, wow, crazy,
which
crazy.
is a lot for
Yeah,
2011.
yeah, right.
So and we had 20,000 people viewing the event
Wow.
worldwide. So basically, I became famous
Hmm.
overnight. And I'm not gonna go like into like too many details because like, there's a lot of stuff I really want to skip forward to the
Hmm.
future. But I did a series of video game events. I mean, sorry, esports tournaments, fighting game tournaments. And then we come up to KBR, which is Kuwait Battle Royale. I said to myself, I was like, hey, I've been doing all these, events. They're being live streamed. They're commentary. There's all this stuff I have now experienced, and more importantly, I have a
Hmm.
reputation as a really good organizer. So I said, why don't I do a tournament that is like large, that's like
Hmm.
big, that is like on like not obviously on the scale of Evo, but
Yeah.
something similar to that. So that's how KBR was created. Next thing you know, we had like 600 plus people attend. We had Justin Wong come. We had Ryan Hart come. We had Filipino champ attend. And we even had staff from Shoryuken.com come to cover the
Hmm.
event as
Was it
well.
really hard to like? Was it really hard to convince them, like, to talk them about like coming to Kuwait?
Ryan Hart, a little
Okay.
bit. Justin Wong, not so much. And Filipino champ basically came because of Justin Wong. The Shoryuken staff actually were covering my older events. So I was like, oh, since they're covering my old events, I'm sure they're going to say, yes to this. And they did
Hmm.
immediately. So it wasn't actually that much of a problem trying to convince those guys to come. Because to be honest, their expectations were so low that they just took it like as like, oh, I'm just gonna go visit this like new
Okay.
country.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't think that this is gonna be like a professional
Yeah. Right. Okay.
tournament because that event, like the reputation of Kuwaitis as really good fighting game players stood out because we
Oh
beat them.
wow. Okay.
We beat all these legendary players. And that was to me the point of no return. Like I
Hmm.
knew that I had something really good. Because by the way, just so you know, the first KBR 2012, we finished the event at almost 3 a.m.
Okay. Wow.
And we still in the crowd, we still had out of the 600 people, we
Hmm.
had like 300 people still at the auditorium.
Yeah. Crazy.
So I knew that, I had something really good and it's like my trajectory is just gonna, go bigger and
Hmm.
bigger and bigger. And that's when I started planting the seeds of now doing a game expo, which is called GX, which you mentioned in
Hmm.
the beginning. GX, the full name is the Games and Media Entertainment Expo, abbreviated as GX, started in 2014. It is Kuwait's first gaming expo, and nothing like it has ever been done in Kuwait. And now I start having, connections, with, certain companies and stuff. And I said, let me now that I have my expertise as a esports organizer, let me convert that into doing game expos and then eventually, get to my ultimate goal of, getting those companies to open offices in Kuwait and the Middle
Hmm.
East.
Yeah.
So we had indie developers for the first time in Kuwait attend and exhibit, including Image and Form, the Swedish company. We had Brian Serguson, the founder and CEO of Image and Form, come and show off SteamWorld Dig. And he loved his time in Kuwait and at the expo. And he was very surprised at how large the community was.
Mm-hmm.
Like in attendance, there was like, I think 2,000 people or something.
Mm-hmm.
And also, just go back a little bit, but it had a bigger impact on GX. In 2012, during the first KBR, I also did Kuwait's first cosplay contest.
Yeah, I remember.
And it just grew from there. It just kept growing and growing and growing. And at GX, we had a cosplay contest that took 4 hours to finish. That's how big it was.
Okay. Yeah, wow.
So, and then, I got into a position where I have a reputation,
Mm-hmm.
I have the experience, and I have the connections. Now I just gotta use that, to my advantage to make something really good. But my problem has always been money. Because, these events, they cost so much. I mean, just the rental of the hall is like half the cost of the event.
Yeah.
And since there's no, AAA or the bigger companies attending, like I can't, have that money, come like, income come back, like revenue.
Through like sponsoring or like, like through companies, yeah.
Yeah,
Companies,
or exhibiting or whatever, attending.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and when I have like a small shop in Kuwait come, they're not going to pay the same amount of money like, like a company like Capcom or Square Enix or Nintendo would pay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So all these events I've been doing, they've been at a loss.
Mm-hmm.
I've never made money. I've always lost money doing these events.
Yeah, I think this is like very like common for like businesses to like first start off with like losing money and then they get so big that they now get like get the big sponsorships and get like big companies to come and then they pay big bucks. Yeah.
Exactly. So, while I was, like the behind the scenes stuff, like throughout the last 10 years, I would contact these companies, Capcom, Square Enix, Sega, whatever, Bandai Namco. And the general consensus was either that we don't care, or like if we go there, are we gonna get kidnapped and die by ISIS?
There
was a lot of stupidity. There's a lot of xenophobia involved, and they never actually asked me the important questions, which were like, what's your attendance like?
Mm-hmm.
What's your demographics? How many females? How many males? Those the business questions. Instead they would ask me, if we smoke, are we gonna go to jail?
It's so crazy, yeah.
If I don't cover up, like, can I wear like a half sleeve shirt or a full sleeve shirt?
Mm-hmm.
Will I be flogged or something? Like, it was like stupid questions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, dude, no, like, what the hell are you talking about? Some were so stupid, they would ask me, so do you guys have electricity there? Like, seriously, you think I'm going to do it like a game expo without electricity?
That's so insane. Like, can you imagine like you're having your whole show like with candlelights?
And the thing is, like, these guys were serious. They were not joking around.
Yeah,
they were like, those questions, they were serious because, like, in the beginning, I thought they were joking. But then, and like, so I would reply back jokingly, and then I was like, oh shit, no, these guys are serious. They're not joking.
Well, yeah.
So I had huge problems with that. And then let me actually say a problem that kind of makes sense and it's easy for us to discuss, which is from the business side of things, is some companies will tell me, okay, convince us. You tell us that the market is so big in Kuwait, so convince us via showing us sales data. I mean, that's true, right? That's how you do
hard
things,
evidence,
correct?
right? Yeah.
Hard evidence. Okay, here's the thing. Because those companies, they don't officially sell their games here. We don't have official sales data.
Yeah, true.
So they created a problem and they want me to fix it. I'm like, I can't, like, it's from you, it's not from me. So like they're like, a company would say, okay, tell us, like for example, let's say, like, I'm not saying this is what happened with Ubisoft. I'm just using it as an example. Like Ubisoft will tell me, well, you say that, Ubisoft is a big name in Kuwait. Show us the sales data for Assassin's Creed. There isn't any.
Yeah.
And just so you know, I mean, I don't want to talk about, the neighboring countries like, Saudi Arabia or Emirates, but I want to talk specifically about Kuwait, but this also applies to the neighboring countries. Almost everyone either has a US PlayStation account or a European PlayStation account. So even when we buy the games like from the PSN, it shows as an American sale.
True.
And I'll give you a crazy piece of information. I met with someone in PlayStation before they made PlayStation Middle East. This is like in 2013. And I was explaining this issue to him. I was like, I talk to these companies and they don't understand that I don't have sales data because, because they don't officially sell the games here. And if they do, we buy them as like, an American, like, or a European, not as a Kuwaiti. And he told me a piece of information that honestly, it didn't blow me away, but I was shocked that Sony had this information and they didn't try to use it, to convince other publishers. They told me the amount of US PlayStation accounts in Saudi Arabia alone is considered the 5th highest in all of America.
Wow.
So that means that the amount of US PlayStation accounts in Saudi Arabia is just as much as California, New York, and Texas.
Wow. Huge.
That's how many people have US, and that's not counting the people who might, like, some random people have a Saudi account or European account. That's just the US accounts in Saudi Arabia. Yeah. So imagine what would happen if those companies actually invested in the region, like how many more players they would get. Of course. Yeah. So finally, I honestly found 2 companies that were willing to listen to me, and that is Koei Tecmo, the European office, and Square Enix, the headquarters in Japan.
Yeah. Before we go into Square Enix, there's just one quick question I want to insert here, because you already mentioned it, but I wanted to ask you more about Square Enix because I know there are some very interesting stories with you and Square Enix. Before we go there, I wanted to ask you something. Like when you're like, since you're now talking about like things like organizing stuff, and it's kind of like reflecting my journey into like doing something on my own, like with this podcast. So I wanted to ask, like, do you still remember like the first person or company or like developer that agreed to come to your convention, and what it was like kind of like what did it make you feel when you read the email or get the phone call or something?
Okay. Well, we have to be more specific. Because and by the way, I was just giving you the timeline of the event. I don't look. You know what? Can you just put this question you just told me on hold?
Okay.
Because. Sure. No, I'll tell you why. Because I'm just going through the timeline of like things that happened, and then I'll go back to like specific questions. Okay. So, like I said, I got in touch with Koei Tecmo and Square Enix, and Koei Tecmo, I had the support of the community manager. He was the only person who was actually actively, trying to help me. He told me the others in the company like didn't really care. And Square Enix, I actually had the eyes and ears of the executives, like all the way up to the CEO. So that was like, that's a totally different relationship. And just skipping forward, because I'm just trying to go over the timeline, and I'll answer the specific questions. In 2018, I got to a point where my reputation was just, it's something that cannot be avoided anymore. And the news about my expo was, getting out all over the world. And all these people who have come to Kuwait in the previous years were like telling others like, hey, you got to go check out, Kuwait. And specifically, you got to go to like Fikra's events, you got to get in touch with Yousif, blah, blah, blah. And to this day, the 2018 event is considered by a lot of people like the best game expo in the Middle East, like history. Because that was the event where Square Enix attended for the first time in the Middle East. That was the event where Yoko Shimomura first came, Manami Matsumai first came, Hitoshi Ariga first came, Sean Schimmel. There's like a list of people, and now we're in the coronavirus, and now I'm actually planning for a digital event of GX. So
Yeah, right.
that is basically the broad timeline of Fikra. So now going back to your question, like I said, we have to be a little bit more specific, because the first person who came was actually not a company or a developer. It was a player, which is Daigo. So, but you wanna talk specifically about like a developer?
No, but like more like when you were first starting off like with your own company, because like as you mentioned, the Daigo stuff was already before, and then you basically made the company on the spot. But now you were like thinking about like like making like GX and everything a real thing, and you were like or I can only speak from my experience. I almost was always like thinking like, can I really do this? Will I be able to get people to come to the show and get some interviews? So I wanted to just ask, like, maybe there's like one person where you saw like, oh wow, like this is now like a real thing. Like people will come to this event. Like besides Daigo, you already had like him.
Not exactly.
Okay.
Up till that point, the only people who've come to my events were esports players, like fighting, like Justin Wong, Filipino champ, Ryan Hart, Daigo, Xian, etc. But now I wanted to switch focus to other parts of the industry.
Yeah.
And I actually met Brian Saragusan, the CEO of Image Inform, the guys behind SteamWorld Dig, in Gamescom.
Okay.
And I told him, like, hey, I'm doing this event. It's going to be like a game expo, blah, blah, blah. And I would like you, to just, just come, just check it out. He also had the same mentality as the esports players. Like, I have zero expectations. And to me, it's just going to a new country to visit.
Yeah.
But that he was the first developer or indie company that came to GX in 2014, and he's actually come 3 times since.
Yeah, I remember you're talking to him on like a stream or something and talking about this. I think, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And actually, he loved what he saw in Kuwait so much that he gave us a worldwide exclusive demo of SteamWorld Dig 2 before it came out, like 9 months before it came out.
Great.
So like that's how that's how much he respects the gaming community here in Kuwait, and my work and stuff. That because like I told him, like we never get demos, we never get anything. So he gave us like an exclusive. So that was nice.
That's cool, yeah.
But yeah, he was the first developer to attend. The first company to attend was actually Koei Tecmo in 2016. But that was being attended by the community manager. The first time like a company attends, with like its staff, was Square Enix in 2018.
Yeah.
And then we had other companies like such as SNK and stuff, demo games and stuff like that. But yeah, that's to answer your question. As indie developer was Image Inform. The first company was Koei Tecmo.
Yeah, and like I said already, you mentioned Square Enix, and I know for a fact you have a very special relationship with Square Enix and how it started. So maybe you can, maybe in a more quick fashion, but maybe you can give us a short story of how you got into like contact and how is your relationship with Square Enix.
Sure, I got in touch with Square Enix, and we agreed to do like a quick meeting at Gamescom in 2014. And I sat down with the business development manager. So like she is someone who directly reports to the CEO. So like this was like the first time I actually sit with someone that's like a decision maker. It's not like a community manager or anything like that anymore. And the thing that kind of helped was that Square Enix themselves had interest in the Middle East market. It's just that they had no idea how to enter it. But they had some interest. So, but again, they didn't really think, the stuff that I was saying was as good as I was saying. It was like the market is huge and stuff. But a year later, they came on a tour to the Middle East. They went to a bunch of countries, and Kuwait was one of them. And I took them to the game shops, and that's when they were like, "Oh shit! Like, no, this is like a legit market." Because we have a place in Kuwait called Rihab, which is like a game mall. It's like a mall for games. It has like it's like Akihabara.
Okay, yeah,
It's like
in Japan.
Akihabara
Yeah.
in Kuwait. It's like all game shops. Like it's like 100 plus game shops and figures and merchandise, what have you. And over time, I still kept in touch with Square Enix, but nothing was really happening. And then I get a contact from Square Enix telling me that the Dissidia producer wants to meet with me. And I meet with him, and he's like, "I heard so much about you, and that you're really good at esports." Because like Square Enix had no intention of working with me on the expo side of things. It was all about KBR. Because that's really where my reputation is at the esports. And he said, "We at Square Enix are gonna choose Kuwait Battle Royale as the first official tournament for Dissidia by Square Enix." And I was like in complete shock because like this was like too good to be true. I was like the way they were talking to me about it, it was so casual. Like it was something that, like, yeah, we say this like, like this is how we usually do business. This is how we usually tell people. It was so surreal. It was like, just like a casual chat. Oh, and it was like, "Oh, and by the way, we're gonna we chose your tournament to be the first stop in our official, Dissidia tournament in the world." I'm like,
Yeah,
what the
big
fuck?
cat, yeah.
And like I didn't even like going into the meeting, I had no idea what they were gonna tell me. So they ended up coming, and they were blown away. Like they were more than blown away with what they saw. And the year after that, they made me be the first person in the Middle East to organize an official Final Fantasy orchestra. That's how impressed they were with my work when they came in 2018. It's like, "Okay, you know what? We trust you, and your organization is top notch. It's like 10/10. We will allow you to do our Final Fantasy, orchestra." And this year, I'm now doing, because of Corona, I'm doing like a digital event on Twitch. So it's going to be GX, just digital. And Square Enix is also participating. And I can't say what it is right now, but they have a major announcement to make. And I am so proud of this announcement. I know what the announcement is already, because it's basically justifies my 10 years of, going through shit, trying to convince game companies to come to Kuwait. Wow. And what I can say is the announcement itself comes directly from Shinji Hashimoto, which is like, one of the top executives at Square Enix. So like it's a big thing if they have him, saying the message. So so yeah, I have like a really good relationship with Square Enix. They 100%, like in the beginning, they didn't understand, the issues that I was facing. But once they came to Kuwait and they saw it with their own eyes, they're like, "Okay, we now understand why you are so adamant that there's a huge market, but we also understand that there's no official sales data. So when we get the sales data, we see like zero." So like they understood that part. So now when I talk to Square Enix, we don't even discuss like, sales data anymore, because they know that I have no control over it, So to them now it's just about positioning themselves, marketing themselves as a game company in the Middle East. That's what they want to do right now. So that's like, my quick brief history with Square Enix.
And you have also one tiny special story about you and dates, right? You and dates, right?
Okay, I didn't know if you wanted me to say that.
I personally love that story.
I know.
I love that story.
So when I told you this story, I had no idea like you would be so into it. But So anyways, Shinji Hashimoto and a few people from Square Enix came to do like a private visit to the Middle East back in 2015. And when they came to Kuwait, they were at my house, we were having dinner, and just like, chatting. And my dad was there. Now, my dad, he still doesn't know what video games are, okay? He doesn't understand them, but he knows that what I'm doing something special, and he knows, like, he doesn't know what Square Enix is, but he knows, like, this is like an important company. And my dad is a great person to sit down with and just chat. Like like everybody loves my dad. So my dad is just like, there chatting with them and whatever. And then at the end of the night, before we were taking them back to their hotel, my dad was like, oh, and I would like to give you some dates. And these were like dates, I want to say, from my family's farm, I think. I'm not 100% sure. And they were like the good kind. Like, they were like, juicy and tasty and all that stuff. Yeah. But to us, it's nothing. Like that bag of dates my dad gave them, which is probably like, like a half kilo or something, was like probably like the equivalent of like $3-4. It's like, it's like, but I know if it was like in Europe or America or Japan, it would be like, $50 or whatever. So my dad gave it to them, and I didn't think anything about it. So 2 years passed by, and I haven't seen Square Enix in person for 2 years. And then I got that meeting with the Dissidia producer, and he doesn't speak any English. So the person who was with us from Square Enix was translating, they introduce you, like, this is so and so, this is so and so, that kind of stuff. So she said, like, this is Yousif, this is the guy from Fikra, in Japanese. But then she continued talking, and I was like, okay, like, she doesn't have to explain that much about me. Like, I knew they were talking about me, but they were not talking about my work. They were talking about something else. But I had no idea what they were talking about. And then she was like, oh, by the way, remember when we came to visit you in Kuwait and your dad gave us those dates? I was like, yeah, I do. They're like, oh my God, this guy. And then she pointed at the Dissidia producer. She's like, this guy became a date addict. He loved those dates. Like, Shinji Hashimoto, basically what he did was, because like the bag was pretty big, the bag of dates. And my dad gave out 3 of them, not just one. He gave out 3 bags. And so like Shinji was like, giving it out to the people at Square Enix, like, hey, taste this. And Ichihiro Hazama, which is the producer of Dissidia, got a taste, and he was like, I want the whole thing.
Confiscating him.
It's like, this is the best thing, I ever tasted in my life, And now the thing is, like, I didn't realize like how addicted to the dates he was, because I was just like thinking in my head, I was like, oh, okay, he likes the dates. Like, he just like, trying to say like, saying nice things to me, and like then the meeting shifted from like talking about video games and business to like talking about dates with Square Enix at Gamescom. Okay. So we were like talking about dates for like 15 minutes. They didn't even tell me about the tournament yet. Okay. They were like, listen. Like, those dates, they're like something else, man. Like, we took it to our family and stuff. like one of the people at the meeting, she was like, listen, I have a cousin who is over 50 years old. It was the first time in their life they taste dates. And they were like in shock at how good it was and how tasty and like they were just going crazy about the dates. And like this guy was like he's like, oh, day two. He was just like, he was just so into it. I was like, and I still didn't realize like this guy was addicted. Like, I just really thought like he just loved them and that was it, So so I traveled to Japan a few months after. And I have a meeting, in Square Enix HQ with everyone there, including the Hazama-san, who is the producer. And I was like, listen, before we start, because I had like my backpack with me. I was like, listen, before we start, and this is when I knew like this guy loved dates. Before we start this meeting, there's something, and like I was like saying this like in a very serious voice, like very serious tone. I was like, listen, before we start our meeting, there's something we got to do. And like, the people in the Square Enix, like, meeting room, they're like all looking at each other, like, what the hell is he talking about? Like why is he so serious?
Mm-hmm.
And then like I go down to get my bag, open up my bag to get the bag of dates, and I made sure there was like this Japanese word that I remembered, which is called wairo. Wairo in Japanese means bribe. Okay, and you know me, like I like to joke around and stuff,
Yeah.
right? So, and I could tell, like my first meeting with this guy in Germany, like this guy was a jokester as well. So I was like, I said this like word for word, like I mixed the Japanese with the English. I was like, I have a wairo for you, and I was like pointing at him. Now, you have to understand, like, Japanese people, like, they're like, they take things literally. And there was one person in that meeting that never met me in his life, so like that's not the kind of thing you joke around, with somebody you never met. And they were like, they were looking at each other like in shock. They had like this look like, where's our goddamn lawyers? Where's our lawyers? And in the middle of this chaos, Hazama-san, the producer of the Cydia, he was the only person who like figured out what I was like trying to do. Yeah. And like he, in excitement, he's like, oh, and like he started like, drumming like the tables, like, like this, drumming. Yeah. He's like, oh, day two. And I just started bursting laughing. I was like, yes, you're right, dates. And I remember because they told me there was going to be 3 people at the meeting, so I bought 3 bags of dates. So I got out 3 bags of dates, and then he was like, you know how like Japanese people, like, when they see it, like they're excited, like, oh, sugoi, So I got them. I put 3 bags of dates on the table, and I pointed at the bag of dates. I was like, that's the wairo, that's a bribe. and like the sigh of relief on the 2 others' faces was priceless.
Yeah,
like they're like, oh, thank God, like he wasn't really bribing us.
Yeah, right. He just made a stupid joke.
And this guy, because you know how like Japanese are like, supposed to be like, polite and not selfish and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, nice and stuff. This guy, he was like, because he just speaks like, like a few words in English. He went forward to the table, grabbed all the bags, not his bag, all the bags, and he was like, me. And I was like, actually, that's for the others. He's like, no, me. And then like this is when I knew, like, the guy likes to joke around and stuff, like, and everything is cool and stuff. And I was like, I just have one question. I was like, is this a good wairo? He's like, and then he gave me like the okay sign with his fingers. He's like, yes, this is good wairo. I was like, if you come to Kuwait, I'll give you more. He's like, I'm coming. And then there's actually a follow-up, which I didn't tell you because it happened after I told you the story. So a year later, I went again to Square Enix to visit them for like a meeting. And it was the same people plus one new person. I think like this new person was like some kind of like, intern or like assistant or something. So I go into the meeting, I do the same thing. I was like, guys, before we start the meeting, there's something we got to do first. And I was like, I have a wairo. These were like, there was 4 people. 3 of them were the same people as the first meeting. Okay. Only one person. All 3 of them got excited because they knew exactly what I was talking about. and like you could see Hazama, he's like, oh, like he just like clapped his hands, like, oh yes, and like the assistant was like looking at them like, what the fuck? Why are they so happy about being bribed in public? He had this what the fuck face on him, and he's like, oh yeah, sugoi. So then, like, I got out my bag, and it was like a bag of dates. He's like, oh, I love you, Yousif. So like this guy is like legit like a date addict, and like he loves dates, and he specifically loves the dates, the kind that I got him or like my dad
Yeah.
got him. So now, just as a joke, I always like joke with him, like, hey, if you don't listen to me, I'm not gonna give you dates anymore, and Square Enix has to, support me from now on, because if they don't, then I'll cut off the supply of dates. Square
Mhm.
Enix, just joking around and stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, like that's the date story.
Yeah. That's one of the best stories I've ever heard. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So speaking of your relationship with dates and everything, and yeah, how do you think like now overall it is going? Like you already mentioned that it's now your 10-year anniversary. Like, do you think like are you now happy with how everything went so far with your 10-year journey? And yeah, like how are you dealing things with Corona? You already said like you're doing this digital event now, but are you now surprised that it's still going as good as it is, or do you think like yeah, it's like I wish it would be now at a point where it's better than this, or like what is the current situation like?
Okay, so overall, I am
Mm-hmm.
happy. There are obviously things that I'm not happy about, because for the longest time, I mean, still now, it always felt like I was working
Mm-hmm.
alone. Like what I mean is, like I don't have support from the government. I don't have support from outside companies. They like no one just cared enough to
Mm-hmm.
invest. But so I'm not happy from that, But that also, I'm partly to blame for that, because I was so adamant on going like on a specific path,
Mm-hmm.
that now that I look back on it, after reflecting on 10 years, there are some things, maybe I should change my approach a
Yeah.
little bit. And I've been doing that the past 2 years. And what I say by I change my approach, I no longer approach game companies
Mm-hmm.
anymore. The only people I talk to are the ones who already have like an established relationship with, like, Square and SNK and other companies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but now I contact people
Mm-hmm.
directly, like, legends, like, David
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Wise, Yoko Shimomura, like those
Mm-hmm.
like legendary people that still work in
Mm-hmm.
the game industry, but they're not tied to any one company.
Yeah. Right.
And by getting them to come, the companies that they work with, take
Mm-hmm.
notice. That's
Mm-hmm.
exactly what happened. And my plan worked. So moving forward, going into the next decade, that's the approach I'm going to take, because like I said before, I'm a people's person, I'm a social person. I like to
Mm-hmm.
hang out with people. Every single person. I mean, you've seen some of the interviews I've done with these like legendary people. They've always
Mm-hmm.
had nice things to say about me and Kuwait and the events that I do. So I said, you know what? Let me focus on that. Let me focus on the social aspect of myself,
Mm-hmm.
because that's my strongest point. That's
Yeah.
my
True.
strongest suit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's working out great. And even for this digital event, not everything has been announced yet, because like there's
Mm-hmm.
still like it's still a month away.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the things, or some of the people that are joining this event, are like legends, like legit, like some of the biggest names in the industry, and they agreed to come because they heard about me and my reputation from other people who came previously,
Mm-hmm.
not from other companies, from other people.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So my approach going forward is to focus more on that aspect and build myself via
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that.
So I guess this is also the reason you came to me directly, not to my big company I work for, like
Exactly.
the big gaming companies I work for. So you went
Exactly.
straight to me.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a very good approach, I think, and yeah, it's something I also kind of noticed when you talk to people directly. Like no matter how big or small they are, I think it's more likely that they will agree to doing something with you than the company themselves, because the companies are usually like so far I had some email exchanges between some companies, and they were always like, well, like maybe we're not like too busy this year, or like we wanted to do this, and how many subscribers do you have here and there, and like show us the numbers. And I was like, oh, please don't talk about the numbers. And I mean, yeah, you know, like
There's a lot of red
it's
tape
like,
when dealing with companies. There's a
yeah,
lot
yeah,
of
yeah, right.
bureaucracy, and see, that's the thing with Square Enix and how I got lucky with them is
Yeah,
because I was dealing directly with the executives. I was able to bypass a lot of that red
yeah.
tape.
I mean, you know, like bribes are helping a lot.
Bribes, yeah, bribes help too. You know, like
Yeah.
I deal with the black gold or black
Yeah,
cocaine.
yeah,
I
yeah,
like to
yeah.
call it.
This is true. Like I already tasted some of the black cocaine. I can
Right.
confirm that's very tasty. You know, some like some people even say that people now like even change their opinions on some games when they see the black cocaine. Like like
Exactly, I think it's safe to say that I bribed you with the black cocaine to be on the show, right?
right, yeah. Yeah, I was like, who is this person and why does he want to come on my show? But I was like, oh, you know, like I opened the package and there it was, the black cocaine, and I couldn't
Exactly.
resist.
No, but what's it called? Yeah, I was really lucky. I noticed that the higher up the ladder, that the people that I deal with, the easier it is for me to get things done.
Mhm.
You know, like, Brian Saragusan, Image and Form has attended 3 times,
Yeah,
because he's the CEO, he's the
yeah.
founder. There's no one above
Mhm.
him. Square Enix, I'm in a similar situation. SNK, I'm in a similar situation.
Mhm.
So other than that, the rest, like, literally, you know who Yoko Shimomura is. Like,
Yeah,
how,
yeah, of
like,
course.
big of
Mhm.
a name she is. Like, and how
Mhm.
how much everybody in the gaming industry
Mhm.
respects her.
Mhm.
She would not stop talking about me after she left
Mhm.
Kuwait. And there were some people that, contacted me because of what they heard Yoko say about
Mhm.
me. There were people. I'll tell you something that's going to be a little bit
Mhm.
crazy, actually. Do you know who Chris Sabat is?
Yeah, I think I heard the name, but
He's the voice actor for
yeah,
Vegeta from.
the US voice, right?
This guy is basically like the biggest name in anime
Yeah,
voice
right on.
actors. Like, you really can't get bigger
Mhm.
than that. Him and Sean
Mhm.
Schimmel. And they came to Kuwait. They came to
Mhm.
GX. And I was like talking to Chris Sabat while he was in Kuwait, and he's like, because he was actually the first voice actor I connect
Mhm.
with to
Mhm.
come. And he's like, did you try to contact others? I was like, yeah, I did, but first of all, number one, I'm not really interested. Number two, I did try to contact Charles Martinet,
Mhm.
but Charles, I had no problems with. It was like he was his agent that was
Mhm.
kind of slowing things down, like the process. So Cristobal was like, yeah, okay, don't worry, I know Charles. I'll just, like, give him a heads up. I'm like, okay. I didn't really think anything about it. I thought it was
Mhm.
just being nice.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, a few months later, Charles Martinet himself contacts me saying, please, I would love to come to
Crazy.
Kuwait. And I told him, I would love to have you in Kuwait, but your agent is being very
Mhm.
slow. Like, it's taken care of. It's done.
Yeah. Wow.
you know?
Yeah.
So,
Crazy.
so like, that's what I mean by changing my approach. Like, I'm dealing with people, but I'm
Mhm.
dealing with, like, legendary people, like, not like your average person. Like, I'm dealing
Yeah.
with,
Yeah.
like, big, big, big
Mhm.
names. They talk to each other, and I get connected with them with that. Like,
Yeah.
that's how you get connect. And I'm seeing this the past 2 years. It's been working out excellently for me.
Mhm.
So I want to continue doing that
Yeah, makes
approach.
sense. Yeah, I think do what works best for you, and then you will have success in the end. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. I think I will also do this maybe for, like, like season two. Like season one is now coming to an end very soon, in the next upcoming months, and yeah, I was also very hesitant about, like, talking to people I already had on my show and asking them, like, yeah, like, maybe you can give me a little help here and there, and but I think so far everyone has, like, been really nice, and uh, some people even, like, I was just, like, checking in with them, like, how are you doing, like, how is the game coming along and stuff, and they were now saying, like, yeah, game is great, and like, yeah, I had such a great time on the show, like, maybe after the game comes out we can do a follow-up episode, and I was like, wow, awesome. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's kind of crazy to feel like yeah, that people actually want to be on the show, or like I guess it's the same for you, like who want to come to you and come to your gaming expo, your gaming
Exactly.
expo.
Yeah. That's excellent to hear. To be honest, that's what you
Yeah,
want to hear.
totally. Yeah, totally. Like I said, like especially sometimes you feel like, oh, like this person didn't do this, or like this person this person didn't respond to your emails and like X amount of times, and you feel like a little bit down. But then you get something like this, and it kind of like uplifts everything, and doesn't the rest doesn't matter anymore. It just feels like really uplifting and like good overall.
Yeah. Look, all I'm gonna say is I have no regrets doing what I did.
Hmm.
Because I got to meet so many people. I got to travel all over the world, and I'm a person who likes to experience like other cultures and other ways of life,
Hmm.
and I got to do that, via traveling and working with people from all over the world in the video game
Hmm.
industry. So
Yeah.
yeah, I have no regrets. But obviously now we can't travel because of
Yeah.
Corona.
Right. Yeah.
We can't
Yeah,
even go
that's
outside because of
that's true. Yeah,
Corona.
I mean, you have
So
some regrets since you sometimes have to come to the countries in Europe that don't have ACs. So I guess,
well, yeah, that's the biggest regret.
coming now full circle.
That's the biggest regret, man. Like those ACs, man. Like I said, it's not about having cold air. It's just about having
Yeah, right.
airflow. It's just about having
Hmm.
airflow.
Hmm.
So yeah. So I don't know if you have any other questions, but I kind of was able to touch on, important parts of my 10-year history with you.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, I think. Yeah, it was awesome, and yeah, we met through Gamescom, and that was lovely. And I think I have one final question. Like, I think
Sure.
there's this question. I want to talk more about games and overall, but I think this is perfect now. I had some other questions prepared, but they're all trivial. They don't make they're not
Okay.
even as good as the things we talked about. But
Okay.
there's one question I have left, since
Okay.
we often discuss this, but we never talk about it in detail.
Mhm.
So I want to know now why, or like what Zelda game is your personal favorite and why?
Okay, so Zelda is my favorite franchise of all time.
Yes.
I've loved Zelda since A Link to the Past on the Super
Mm-hmm.
NES, and I basically played every Zelda game except for the shitty CDI ones. But those don't
Right.
exist to
Yeah.
me.
Right. Yeah.
Anyways, for the longest time, depending on my mood, I would jump between Link to the Past and Ocarina of
Okay.
Time. And then a Link,
Between
which
Worlds.
one?
Between Worlds.
Between Worlds on the 3DS
Yeah.
came out,
Yeah.
and that quickly became my
Mm-hmm.
favorite.
Mm-hmm.
And then Breath of the Wild came out, and I was like, okay, this is the best
Okay.
one.
Okay.
So to be honest, it depends on my
Mm-hmm.
mood. Is what the answer I'll give you. Obviously, I have a lot of nostalgia for A Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time.
Right. Yeah.
So those will always, be there. But
Mm-hmm.
but I think Breath of the Wild really took everything, like all the good stuff from all the Zelda games, and put them together in one complete package, and then added, on top of that, to that experience, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what really made me like it. And then, the art style is great and everything. The gameplay, I love the gameplay. I was actually a little bit hesitant about the weapon breaking system in the
Mm-hmm.
game, but I like it for one reason, is because it allows me to diversify my weapons, because I'm the kind of person that doesn't really change his gear that
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
much.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
as once I have, like, a specific set of armor and gear that works for me, unless like I absolutely need to change it, like I won't change it. So with the I mean, yeah, I know it can be a hassle, but at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, it allowed me to try so many different weapon combinations that otherwise I would not have tried.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. I mean, there are also wrong opinions, I guess.
No, no, no. When you talk about Zelda, it was always right
Yeah,
opinion.
like we had some similar opinions, because I also still very like A Link Between Worlds, and but for me it's Majora's Mask. I think it's actually the secret hidden gem in.
Majora's Mask is
Yeah,
so
it's very
good.
good. Yeah. So yeah, I always wanted to know.
All
Yeah.
the Zeldas, honestly, there is no such thing as a bad Zelda game. All the
Yeah.
Zelda games are like above average at
That's
worst.
true. They're above average, but
They are all above average. It's
yeah.
just, which ones are better than the above average.
Right.
That's what Zelda is to me. And I always get excited, for the next Zelda game. I'm not really into the spin-offs like, Hyrule Warriors and stuff.
Yeah, true.
I mean, I might get the new one. I'm not sure.
Mm.
But, when it comes to like a brand new Zelda, like a single player adventure Zelda, like I'm in like, day one, day zero. I'm there.
Awesome. Yeah, me too. Hook me up with the next attempt after Breath of the Wild. I'm good to go.
I'm looking forward to that because like I was the thing. You know why I think Breath of the Wild really I really liked it because I actually didn't have high expectations for it.
Well, it was the opposite with me. I had high expectations and I was a little bit disappointed.
Oh no, I was the opposite. I had low
Okay.
expectations going in, just thinking it was going to be like a good Zelda game, nothing amazing, but then just blew me away. So that's one of the reasons I think.
Maybe.
Honestly, this applies to every game. When you go to a game with low expectations, you can't really get
It's
disappointed.
true. Yeah.
Because once you're like so hyped, the smallest thing will like ruin the experience for you. So
It's true.
I usually like Mario Galaxy. I had negative expectations. Not even low, it was negative expectations. It just blew me away, Mario Galaxy. And then Mario Odyssey, I had like my hype was through the roof, and I was disappointed by
Yeah,
Odyssey.
same. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So yeah, it's probably a good idea to keep your expectations low, even if you're excited for the
That's
game.
true. So let's all hope you had low expectations for this interview and were positively surprised in the end.
No. Well, see, I have advantage of your other guest that I actually met you in person, like a few times already, so I know exactly what to expect from you.
That's true. Good or bad, I guess. Good or bad, I guess.
Yeah, both good and bad.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess that's the end of the episode. Yeah, Yousif, maybe you can tell the people listening right now where they can find you, following Twitch and Twitter, Instagram, whatever you do.
Okay, so all our social media is the same name, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, Facebook, Snapchat, whatever. It's Fikra KW, Fikra KW. So basically Fikra Kuwait. It's all one word, no space, no dash, no whatever, no dot. And we will be doing our digital event, the Digital GX, November 5th and 6th. So this is the first time people can actually experience my work from outside of Kuwait. So you can watch that on our Twitch channel, November 5th and 6th, Fikra KW. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome, yeah. And yeah, you can follow the show on at Yumi Industry on Instagram and on Twitter. And you can follow me personally and at Dorian Chow. That's DORIANCHOU. And yeah, you can always subscribe to the show, like go on YouTube, leave a comment, do whatever you want. Be positive about it. And yeah, I guess that's the end. And maybe the final words I will leave up to Yousif. Maybe you can say something in Arabic, like something nice or something to end the show. Maybe like just say a date or something. I will leave it up to you. I will probably never understand. Never understand what you will say, and maybe my show will be cancelled afterwards. I will just trust you that you don't say anything too offensive or too like something that gets me censored or banned in the Middle East. Maybe even outside of the Middle East, and for like I will never be able to leave Germany again. So I will leave it up to you.
Yeah, so your fate is in my hands, or in my mouth rather.
Right.
So yeah, well, the word for date in Arabic is tamar or tamra. So that's the Arabic word for dates, tamar. And I guess we can just say goodbye in Arabic.
Good then.
We can just say ma'a salama.
Ma salama.
Ma'a, the a sound is not a sound that's in Western languages. Okay. It's basically the way Westerners write it is MAA, but the letter doesn't exist in the Latin language. It's ma'a as-salama.
Okay. I will just leave it at that. Take care, everyone.
It means go with peace. Go with peace.
All right then.
Or we can just say it in German. Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen. Bye bye. Take care. Bye bye. Take care.
Or tschüss.
Tschüss. Bye bye. Tschüss. Bye bye.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Dorian, for this interview. I had, a lot of fun just chatting and laughing with you. And yeah, maybe we should do this again sometime, in the
Yeah,
future.
hopefully. Oh, you are always welcome back. Yeah.
Thank you, thank
Okay,
you.
tschüss.
Tschüss.